create havoc with the Tombstone and that level 1 decay, and maybe that's the kind of role that Way 2 wants to play, is he wants to be disruptive in the lanes. Maybe if they overextend a little bit too much for Bulba at that top lane for that Nyx Assassin, he has time to come in and kind of turn things around. Because I feel like that's the role that Undying plays, right? Is that he plays the counter initiator. He's the type of hero that things look bad and then all of a sudden Undying comes in with a billion zombies and makes things really tough for the enemy team. And we're going through the picks right now. It's
just going to be a repicking of their heroes. Not going to change the draft, but yeah, like you were mentioning, the problem I see with the rotation on the Undying is you face a Queen of Pain mid lane, and I just think there's not going to be much happening, right?
Yeah. The likelihood that they kill is really low.
I mean, it could be a Queen of Pain mid. It can still be the Drow mid. I'm not entirely sure. If it's Drow, I can see the movement coming for sure. You just walk onto Drow and you just don't care. But if it's a Queen of Pain middle, I mean, you can use Decay and you kind of, you make the lane a bit easier. But is it gonna be like the crazy, like the essential help for the mid lane? Not really. You don't really accomplish that much.
Yeah, I remember when it was like C9 used to play, it was Pylai Die that would do that every single game, right? He'd play a hero like Wind Ranger, and then he'd just come in, right-click the enemy mid 7 times on top of his hill, and then just walk away.
I don't even think it's bad, especially if you tend to be rather greedy in your mid lane, where you don't want to get as much regen, you can get punished quite hard. Where as you attempt, like you potentially need an extra flask, right? And that is going to lower your bottle timer or whatnot, right? So it can work, it doesn't have to be. And it looks like it's going to be Sys playing the Joe on the short lane here. And with a Queen of Pain towards the mid lane.
Yeah, and so Bulba said something, no idea what, as teams look pretty excited. You're welcome. Oh, that was black. And so playing a little bit of mind game, saying, we remade for you and didn't say anything about it. But I don't think that'll factor into anything. I don't know why I laughed at that. That wasn't funny, man. I'm just really tired.
I laughed.
Did you?
No.
You got me there, man. Germans are so sarcastic. All the people that I work with, they've got the driest sense of humor.
That's very true. I think, for my point, the joke has to be very good.
It wasn't, though. Now you're making me nervous, laugh, honey. So
no, it doesn't matter.
We're just gonna get into the game normally. As the Nyx Assassin already has his ward up, and he actually opts to go for the Poor Man's Shield. I think when he plays against the 2 range heroes, that's a good choice, right?
Yeah, I think Poor Man is definitely good. Especially you have that extra regen anyway, and you potentially go for an early Mango, which is not that expensive, right? So you could fly that out, and you're gonna have an extra regen. I generally think Mango is one of those items that on a Nyx Assassin, with having that much regen already, it benefits the hero quite a lot.
Yeah, because at that point it feels like you're attacking into a hero that has an early ring of health already.
Yeah.
And that feels a little bit broken, especially for a hero like Vengeful Spirit, who can't get away with just constantly right-clicking, right? Because the Nyx Assassin will just right-click you back, especially with that Poor Man's Shield. And the Vengeful Spirit, if you're wondering why she's standing there, she's just making sure that the range hero attacks her first, and the creeps kind of equalize as a result. So the lane doesn't push in the other way. And so, again, we already seen Fly actually is going to get gone on the decay plus the stun, bringing him down to a quarter of his HP, but that shouldn't mean a kill, as Way 2's up here just to kind of mess with them. And this is what we were talking about, right, in the early game. This is the type of role that you want to play as the Undying.
Yeah, I think now the Undying got an actual purpose. Moving the Undying onto the top lane, we're just essentially are in a 2v3 scenario now, it should be fine, just because like one stun essentially on a Vengeful Spirit is not going to kill either. They're just too tanky for that.
Yo, and actually, we actually saw Pylai Die pick up the last hit with just the Shadow Poison actually onto Moon Meander, and that's a little bit surprising considering it's a Shadow Demon plus Spectre lane, right? And that's a level 1 Shadow Poison as well.
I think I know what happened though. It's you start with the slow from Blackgear, and then I think Pi waited out the disrupt to the moment he used the dive.
Oh, he didn't skill disrupt 1 though.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah.
Oh, it was just it. All right.
And at top, Bulba's gonna get gone on, and 3 range heroes beating on him, but it should mean he's okay. The amount of regen that he has with that Poor Man's Shield as well, blocking that much damage and unable to do anything. And at this bottom lane again, things have just started so well for Mouse, as Moon Meander pretty much This should be an okay offlane for him normally, but giving up that first blood. For once, we see Pi take it.
Yeah. That might actually be another attempt on the bottom lane. It looks very scary for Moon.
Yeah, and that level 1 Fire Spirit just doesn't do too much, and he's actually just going to skip ahead. The dagger should connect as well, and maybe this is how he died the first time, as Pylai die, just getting the right clicks off on him as well. One more poison might do it. Oh, and he's actually getting quite low, and this could actually mean the death of both of them, as Pylai die does get the last hit on him, and Moon Meander dies at the same time. But meanwhile, at top, Fly coming in from the side. Does he have the angle for the stun? Way2's trying to hide in there. Does get the decay off, but the stun flies as well. Fly traps him inside, and the damage from that is enough to get the kill. And meanwhile, at top, Pylai die rotates in, able to TP, and another stack of poison should be able to clean up Fly as well.
Very great rotations again by Pylai die here.
Dies and he does this. That's his move.
I was gonna mention, I think Moon, if Moon would have not gone for that greedy, trying to get the last hit on him there, right? I think he would have had a chance to get that kill and gotten out of that situation. I felt like he turned too early because he essentially didn't get that experience, which would have been huge for him, right?
Yeah, he probably thought that he was going to get the last hit right before and he would be able to survive the hit. But Phoenix has no armor, right? He's got 0 base, doesn't really tank up very much, and Pylai die will never stop for that kill. He's always going to go for it. And once again, in games in which Mousesports has got first blood, Pylai die has only taken first blood 6.4% of games, and at this bottom lane he has to be careful because he's in such an aggressive position, but he's going to get gone on, has no idea the Fly's there, and he disrupts himself, but this will only be a time buying measure as he goes down and Fly gets the revenge on him, and good rotation by him.
Yeah, it was a good rotation here by Complexity for sure. You have to make something happen. You can't just... Spectre is one of those heroes that's so punishable in the early phase on the lane. He essentially doesn't give you much at all. So once done, can make that lane a lot easier. And you know how aggressive Pi plays on that lane. It's actually funny to mention that usually with Disruptor, you would just have... I mean, on Shadow Demon, you would just play on the Disrupt, right?
Yeah.
But it's just so... like kind of Pi figures out his style, right? Where he rather would go on the aggressor. he doesn't really care of having that disruption or not to play safe.
Fly might actually get caught out here as Quakeva just kind of faking out the stun, but this should still mean a kill as he's kind of trapped in these tree line. And one more poison goes onto him, and Quakeva, I think he should be able to get the last hit. Yes, he does. Saves the lightning for that, and that's a free kill for Quakeva, and that's the worst player I feel like to give early kills to.
Yeah. I mean, Leshrac he's not essentially struggling on that lane, but Queen of Pain with the aura, he should have a fairly okay time. At the same time, you know, when you have a Leshrac middle, he doesn't really suffer against anything, I would say. He can always nuke out the lanes, and he's just gonna do fine. And right now we can see him on top of on top of the last hit, so he's doing very well.
Yeah, and at top again, they're just kind of harassing Z's. Like, none of this is meant to kill him, right? It's just meant to establish lane dominance, right? Like, look how little you can do because you only have a dazzle. Good rotation by Fly, but at the same time, being picked off in the jungle right there and then giving up more room, I guess, to that top lane, it kind of snowballs. And again, he's smoked up. It looks like he wants to look for a kill in this bottom lane, but I don't know how likely this is going to be as Pylai die kind of just circles out. Looks like they want to die for black, and they are able to, and the Fire Spirits do land, but a TP's coming from Way2Sexy as one more hit should be able to get him, and the Tombstone drops as well, and Moon Meander goes down, but so does Black as the Disruption flies as well. Fly, this should mean the death on him as well. One more, oh no, that's actually enough to be able to do it, and Pylai die picks up another kill.
He is almost level 5.
This is just the most Pylai die game I've ever seen, and do you think that's worth it, being able to trade both of those heroes that are kind of low net worth? Because it is a 2-for-1, but in scenarios like that, I always question, who does that really benefit?
I think it really depends. To me, Spectre, you know, he's not going to do too much early movement, right? Like, he essentially just wants to farm. If he doesn't, I mean, if he dies there, it's okay to me, because you give that early levels towards their supports who already have such a roaming potential, right? Like, Pi is just moving around the map. The earlier he gets a 6, the more he can do. Whereas Spectre, he just wants to farm. He doesn't really want to participate too much in kills. Sure, you shut down a carry, but you still give up 2 kills. So what's it?
Oh, and actually they messed that up. as they actually thought that Koikfa thought that the stun was going to go off on him and vice versa, and Swindle actually blinks forward pretty aggressively. Looked like he wanted to go for that that Sonic Wave, but unable to do so. That should have been a kill though, right? Because I feel that was just miscommunicated.
Yeah, it was miscommunicated. Questionable why. I mean, the kill is very obvious to me. Maybe they thought they would not have, you know, like Koiko could just set up that stun, but and you know you saved that disrupt for potential TPs, right? Like if someone would want to try to help, you set it up, right? You set up the disrupt, and then any TP in potentially could help out if you use the disruption.
Yeah.
But I guess it would have been a safe play to just, you know, yeah, you disrupt, you most likely to get the kill on Queen of Pain, especially if you get the increased damage on top of that.
Yeah, that would have. I feel like that would have guaranteed it, but a little bit of a mess up by Mouse at bottom again. You see them in an aggressive position, and Pylai Dai gets the disrupt off. Doesn't see the Venge though, and he does get the stun. And Moon Meander might look like he wants to turn this, but he's actually just going to get away. Realizes that that level 2 poison is strong enough to zone him out, and he doesn't want any trouble as Fly sticks around a little bit, and Pylai Dai doesn't have this disruption up, and the Queen of Pain actually rotates in as well. It looks like they want to get another kill on Black, and this would be huge just to be able to slow down his farm. And at this bottom lane,
they seem to be ready for it though.
Yeah, he's actually just going to get out. Like, he's completely kind of comes in and he's like, okay, this isn't happening. I'm losing too much farm in this middle lane. Let's get out, and way too sexy at top. Doesn't really look like he's going to be able to accomplish too much. It feels like the role of this Undying right now is just to be as annoying as possible. Like, he's not meant to get any kills or anything like that. He's just supposed to help Bulba out on this offlane as much as he can.
And I believe Bulba's going to soon try to make something happen. Just because he finished his mana boots now, the next step is obviously getting his Blink Dagger. But right now he's 6, has mana boots, so he can move around quite easily. And I believe that's what he's aiming towards right now. He can set up that kill on towards the mid lane, onto the Queen of Pain. He can start with a stun even into a follow-up stun by the Leshrac, right? So you don't have to get that extra hit from the Vendetta. And I think he's gonna set that up right now.
Yeah, he has a lot of options for this, and Bulba just kind of scouting around right now, and they don't have vision of this, but it kind of feels like Swindle has some idea of what's going on. Is there a sentry ward mid? I don't see one. So
he's moving in on mid lane.
Yeah, and if he's able to get the stun off, this should mean the kill. And this is a pretty high priority kill, and this should mean death as the stun flies in as well. And the Koikfa is able to get the last hit using the lightning, and that's actually a really high priority kill, because I don't think the Queen of Pain had died before that point, right? And that's just another kill for Koikfa is the bigger thing.
As well as Queen of Pain hasn't died, but at the same time Queen of Pain now is not capable of making something happen, right? He tried to aim towards getting that bottom kill, and he was not successful with that, because Mousesports just read it essentially well. And I'm not sure, it's just gonna Mousesports just seems to do the better moves throughout this previous series into this series as well.
Yeah, you notice the Queen of Pain, actually interesting pickup by her. She actually picks up the cloak. Do you think that's a Glimmer Cape, or do you feel like that's a value buy?
The funny part is, you know, buying the cloak, especially after the change.
Oh, and at top, the silence flies as well. Bulba's going to go down in quick order, and Way 2 actually drops the tombstone, but they're going to take down, and the Spectre's going to come in with the Haunt. He actually realities in, and the target is going to be the Stroll Ranger, as they don't have the Sonic Wave anymore, but they're just turning it around as there's so much damage on the way of 3 range heroes. They're going to take down a second kill right now, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get any sort of rebuttal off. And finally, we see some moves being made, and Pylai Dai up at top. He's gone on by the Phoenix, and is this burn damage going to be enough? He's going to just walk out with 19 HP. I doubt that Moon Meander goes for this again, and he's going to be really disappointed with that.
That was so close to getting that kill. I mean, you can't blame Moon here. I think 20 HP is understandably, right?
Yeah.
That play was... It could have been a kill. And, well, it didn't work out here for Cole, unfortunately. They get that top tower, though, in the process. And I see them actually potentially moving towards the Roche, trying to get that Roche kill as early as possible. It's quite late into, 11 minutes is not that great, but it's very doable. You want to make something happen before Spectre gets any items, and it looks like Spectre actually suffered quite a lot. He's not very farmed at all.
Always.
And
our internet. Everything just went off.
I can't see anything.
I completely went too. That was really scary.
How's life? Alright. I'm not sure if people can hear us, but...
Okay, for some reason, all of our lights just went off. Just give people updates as to why we didn't just talk. It looks like everything was fine though. It was just our lights that flicked off, and so we don't really know what happened for the last 30 seconds. Sorry if that was weird. I was panicking. I held on to Hani because I was scared, but...
That was interesting.
All of a sudden, the lights just completely went off, and getting back into this game, it looks like you're completely right. They're going to go for this quick Roshan. Fly actually maxing out that Wave of Terror first, and I think this is the right call, right?
Yeah.
Go for the early Roshan, just kind of establish a bit of momentum for yourself.
And back to my last point was pretty much that they successfully, you can say, shut down the Spectre. Spectre does not have a good game so far. He's sitting on face boots, and did he now finish the Vanguard, or is that, I believe so? Yeah, he finished that Vanguard.
I think that's the right call though, because you've been aggressed so often, you need something to be able to survive.
Yeah. I think maybe one item that he should consider getting is still the Quelling Blade on him.
Yeah.
And
on the top, Swindle's going to be the target as he realities in. One more hit should be able to do it. He doesn't have the blink up yet though, and that's a huge kill right now for Black. Being able to pick up that kill onto the Queen of Pain. In terms of levels as well, that means so much for him, and that just kind of gives them a little bit of a swing. As his bottom lane though is getting quite low, as Z's does have the Aegis, right? Yeah. He almost certainly does. There's no way that the Venge would have it. He does have that drums and an Aquila build.
Interesting item build by the Joe. Usually you see always, it's kind of a standard item rotation where you go PTs, Aquila, most likely into either Manta, or you just get a straight away BKB or something like that, right? But getting that additional HP, potentially also a bit of, you know, like movement speed slash attack speed for your team, it's not too bad, but I'm wondering if the 2k, almost 2k gold are worth it in getting.
It feels like it's one of those mid-game investments where I think he just wants something in case they decide to fight them, even with the Aegis, because Z's is actually going to get gone on right now, and he needs some tankability as Koikva comes in with the stun as well. He's dropping quite low. The Grave is going to fall though. Does he have enough stacks on him? He should be okay with that additional heal, and that did a lot more damage than I thought it was going to. And this mid tower is getting quite low. Do you still force this though if you're Complexity? Like your Dro now has, where is he actually? He's got 241 HP. He has the Aegis, yeah, but if you lose that, you're probably not in the best position, right?
I mean, it looks like they just want to get that tower and put it most likely back on.
An aggressive move by Swindle Melons as he recognizes there isn't going to be too much of a follow-up. The swap sending Koikva back into the backlines, and the Phoenix ult is going to mean there's no way that they can possibly fight. Everybody's going to get stunned up as way too. He's going to get caught out as well, and suddenly Complexity is on the aggressive side of things as Bobo walks in, but he's just going to get completely blown up with the silence as well to follow, and that's a tier 1 and 3 kills on the way of Complexity now.
And that's really important, especially when you run a draw strat like this, right? You just want to get that, keep that momentum going. And very questionable plays here by the side of Mousesports. I feel like giving up a tier 1 is completely fine. Way2 got a bit too greedy. He felt like he needed to take off that Aegis there. I mean, obviously he managed to do so, right? But is it worth it dying for it? I do not think so.
And Moon Meander, he does get ulted by the Shadow Demon, but he's just going to kind of walk that off. Do Phoenix things and get away, and he's got a hand of Midas, and now, I mean, Complexity, in game 1 it looked like a stomp, in game 2 it sort of seemed like it was going to go the same way, as the Shadow Demon was able to solo kill the Phoenix twice, but now we're starting to see Complexity with that Aegis build up somewhat of a lead now, being able to use that and turn it into 2 towers.
I mean, in the meantime, Spectre was free farming, right? You have 600 gold on the Spectre, who essentially is going to build into a Radiance, most likely, I assume so. You can potentially get the Manta, right? It's not too bad of an item as well, but if you manage to get more and more farm, Radiance is always the option.
Yeah. And a 4-man smoke by Mouse, and this is the earliest smoke that I've seen them do as a group this early. And do you think this is just a response to, let's just try to stop the bleeding and get what we can here?
I do think it is sort of a good response. They know Aegis is down, right? So taking a fight here for them is definitely the right call. Especially because you want to try to play aggressive, so Spectre can either join you, right? He can always join you.
Yeah.
In all fights that you take, he gives you the vision that you want as well. But at the same time, you also force aggression towards a call here, and you give Spectre the freeform that he wants and needs. If you want to, I wouldn't say stay in the game right now for Mousesports. I think they still do completely fine, right? But you need to have your core to get some items.
Yeah, and potentially for the first time that I've seen so far, Mouse is actually in a net worth deficit at 17 minutes into the game. It's a really specific time, but like post 15 minutes, most of the time I've seen them heading into their games. And at top, Moon Meander, Pylai looking for the disruption, unable to do so, and Bulba even in an aggressive position with his ultimate popped, and all of Complexity making their way up here, and I don't think that Mouse want to force this.
Interesting item pickup here by the Phoenix. I wonder if that's just a casual vitality booster just to get a bit more HP, or if he's opting towards like an Athos. I do not think Athos is the right item choice here, just because you face a Nyx assassin, right? You don't want to get intelligence, not specifically, or if you do, you prefer getting a Shivas, I would say.
Oh, and all of a sudden Black's at 2,400 gold. Once he gets that Radiance timing, do you feel like Complexity is on some sort of clock? Do you feel like once he gets the Radiance, the game kind of becomes a lot more difficult for Cole in the sense that they have to end it sooner?
In the old days,
at top, Fly actually manages to get the swap off from Moon Meander. He does have that Phoenix ult as well, just kind of doing a scouting dive, I feel that was. Because if he saw the opportunity for the Nova, I feel like he would have popped it there, but in this middle lane right now, Swindle's looking for that solo kill on way 2. He does have the Orchid. Gonna pop the ultimate as well. One more right click should be able to do it, and that's a solo kill now for Swindle Melons.
And we were talking earlier about that cloak, right? You were mentioning right before we got the darkness happening in the studios. But I think a casual cloak now with a 5% extra magic resistance is very worth it. I feel like it's a good casual item to get, and you don't have to build anything out of it. Obviously, Glimmer Cape is a great item in a lot of situations, but you wouldn't want to get a Glimmer Cape on a core, right?
Yeah.
So I think getting the cloak here, if you look at the side of Mousesports in terms of damage, just against Nyx already and Leshrac, I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah, it's going to help against the Radiance burn damage as well. I'm a little bit concerned about Mouse's chances once that Radiance comes into play, especially against this kind of 5 range shield lineup where you don't have the best magic burst aside from the Queen of Pain, I guess, but you've already got a Vanguard as well to negate a lot of that damage, and then you've got the miss chance as well that'll come out from the Radiance burn, and Black's getting pretty dangerously close to that Radiance. He's got 3,400 gold all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they're not pressuring the Spectre at all, right? Questionable. To me, that's very questionable, just because you kind of saw the Vanguard timer on the side of Mouse, right?
Yeah.
You look at the Spectre, you see when he gets his Vanguard. Then you can assume how much more time he needs to get a Radiance.
Yeah, and the Spectre ult's going to go off, and here's the initiation as the Disruption follows, and Moon Meander looks like he's just going to get stun locked to death. Yep, no opportunities for him to even get any spells off, and Black's on a killing spree now, and that should mean his Relic is Swindle Melons is also caught out by the edge of that poison. Looks like he just wants to get this rune and get out, and another kill goes the way of Mouse, and more importantly, it goes the way of Black.
And Black is gonna, I think he's very close. Yeah, he got the money for the Relic here. He's probably gonna send out the Kure any moment to pick that up.
Oh, and at bottom, Swindle looks like he wanted to get aggressive for a second, but he's just gonna force out this entire creep wave, and the entire side of Cole right now, I think they realize as well the same thing that you just did. Just like, okay, he's gonna get his Relic anytime. Once he gets the Radiance, the fights are gonna be way too hard, especially to push tier 2 towers. Then it becomes so dangerous.
Plus, right now they use the momentum that they know the Spectralities is on cooldown. They know they don't have it, right? And essentially you can push, because it's not as easy to take that fight for Mouse here, just because you don't get that vision, the essential vision that you need, and pretty much also the entire damage pool that you can negate with jumping onto the Joe as the Spectre is not happening right now. Yeah. So I think it's the right call here by Complexity to move and go for...
the follow-up stun comes on to Swindle Melons, but that value cloak, I really feel like that was what saved him there. And that heal's able to get him up as well, and they do a lot of damage, though, to this bottom tower.
Yeah. Spectre, in the meantime, is still working towards that Radiance. I assume they're gonna move back and go for that Roche attempt potentially. Is I didn't check for the timer on Roche in terms of how fast it spawned, right? So Complexity could be thinking that it's not up yet, most likely not up.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like they want to commit for this bottom tier 3 tower.
Oh, and they actually get the stun and the swap off on a Pylite die. Z's is getting quite low. The Shallow Grave is there preemptively, and the Phoenix Supernova is on the backline as well. They don't really have the best way to fight this. Bulba's going to go in, but the Supernova stuns there as well. Bulba's dropping quite low as well as Swindle Melons. They're actually on the retreat now as all of Complexity right now are being chased down, but oh my god, that Sonic Wave into the middle of that choke point. Who's actually going to win this fight as Koikva is going to go down, immediately gets bursted down. Way2's going to get chased as well. Swindle with the aggressive blink and a triple kill for him. What looked like a really good fight for Mouse for a second just immediately turns around with that Sonic Wave.
And I would like to point out that Moon played that fight very nicely. He went in, he gets the Supernova off, then Boba was in a situation where he felt like he cannot dodge the stun, right? Where he needed to go out of the radius, but going out of the radius means he's also positioning himself even worse, right? Then he goes in, he tries to attempt to kill the Drow there, it did not work. I think he had that extra hit from the Vendetta, right? It looked like it, but it seemed like the Shadowgrave there off the Dazzle just gave everyone so much armor that essentially almost dealt no damage onto the Drow, and he survived. Other than that, when Moon came out of the fight, he got stacks on the entire team, so there was no physical damage coming out for the entire time for like 4 seconds, and then great Sonic Wave by Moon into pretty much the entire squad of Mouse there, and it turned around the entire fight.
Yeah, it looked like Mouse for a second. They were going to get really aggressive. They're like, oh, we won this fight. We chased them out. Take this fight. Run at them. And you even saw a buyback from Pylite die after that fight, but that's 4 down and a buyback from Mouse. And suddenly, everything seems to be going the way of Complexity. As I think that a BKB was just picked up on the side of that Queen of Pain, yes. So this should mean even more aggression from the side of him. The Drow opted to go for that S and Y, very stat-heavy build, and I can't imagine that Ogre Club is anything but the BKB for him, and I think once they take this Roshan, that'll mean the bottom racks as well.
But they do have to watch out here, because does Spectre have the Radiance finish? I do assume so, right? Yes, he does have it finished, and he's going to have an ultimate in 15 seconds.
Yeah, they are getting aggressive as Bulba just able to get the blink off as the silence does connect on him, but no further damage. Just going to be able to do anything, and they want to go for this Roshan, and I don't know if Mao's what the best option is it looks like they want to get into a fight here as Bulba blinks in quite aggressively onto Z. He's going to pop that ult right away. Swindle Melons with the BKB. Looks like he's going for the supports. The Supernova also flies down. Not enough damage. Way2's going to go down in short order, and that's actually going to mean 2 kills. No buyback for Shadow Demon, although I don't think that really matters. And more importantly, this is going to mean a free Roshan that I feel like was free, and you gave up 2 kills on top of that.
I have to say though, they play very well around that Phoenix. I feel like the fight is completely centered around him. It's very hard for the side of Mouse to take these fights, right? Because you want to move out of the fight, but if you don't take the Drow down, they drop the totem and they wanted to kill the Drow, right? They want to attempt to go in. Where Bulba, he got I would say, a pretty okay initiation, right? He got the Drow stunned in the Roche pit, but I believe Bulba just needs to get some sort of Ravage. He can't just a single stun the Drow.
Yeah, he has to line up for it, because right now the amount of team fight that they have, just it doesn't feel like the damage is really there. The shadow wave, I think that's what it's called, kind of negates most of that damage. Thank you, Scriff. I know it's Griff. I just called him Wetbust to mess with him, but it negates a lot of the damage, and the angry mouse movements are coming in. But it just feels like they don't have enough damage right now, and they have to lock down multiple heroes with that Nick stun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, essentially, you would want to see a stun right onto the 2 heroes that can save the Drow. At the time where Drow does not have a BKB, that's probably the only way you can win these kind of fights. Feels like Leshrac does not have any, like he doesn't find any momentum whatsoever in these fights, right? He just dies. He got a Ghost Scepter, but it seems like he just explodes.
If he's actually caught out by that Queen of Pain with the Orchid on top of him, and he's got that Ghost Scepter going, he's going to go down just as fast as he would have regardless. But, I mean, we saw how quickly he went down to 4 people right-clicking him, and at the same time, Swindle blinks forward, looks like he wants to try to go on Black, as he does manage to catch him out with that hit. One more should be able to do it. Black's just going to TP in front of him. Is there any sort of follow-up? No, there's not, as not able to really take advantage of that.
Do you think he would have died there?
It's a level 2 ulti. I think that if he had fired it immediately in conjunction with the Orchid, he definitely would have gotten the kill.
He could have, right?
Yeah.
I guess he just wasn't sure about it. So I believe he would have thrown the ultimate if he's seen it would have been enough damage, right?
Yeah. I think I mean, he had a DD right clicking as well. It's hard to say because the last right click on the DD probably ticked him enough, but he didn't have enough time in between.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I think it's just important that they keep the Spectre pressured, right? You want to just send him back to base, even if you don't kill Spectre. If he goes back to base, he goes to like 5% HP. You did a good job. Like, you just want to shut him down from farming. He needs a heart. He needs a BKB, something that he can sustain in these fights. I guess I would say a heart is probably the next item choice for him here. He needs more HP, maybe a Scotty or maybe a Manta, but I don't think that Manta is going to be an item that makes him survive in these team fights.
Yeah, and this bottom lane is being pressured right now by Quickfa, but unable to do too much to it as that top tower falls, and Complexity look like they're going to get into kind of an aggressive position. They have the BKB ready on Swindle Melons. They've got the Orchid. They've got 2,900 gold as well. I think that's a BKB flying in for Z's. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like, okay, he does have the Mithril Hammer. Yeah, he's got the BKB now. And I think that's the timing, right? He gets the BKB. You've got 2 BKBs on both your vulnerable cores. And so now you don't have to use the Grave immediately because the amount of physical damage that Mouse have is actually quite lacking.
And what we were mentioning earlier, Moon actually did finish that Atos on the Phoenix. I guess as long as there's no BKBs on the side of Mouse, Atos is a good item. And I guess one thing going with it is that Spectre is one of the heroes you don't actually want to get a BKB on too early, right? Yeah. So you can kind of control the hero in these team fights. But my concern was just the mana burn on the side of from Nyx here against Phoenix.
It's good against Quickfa as well, though. The Rod of Atos, being able to take him out of position before the BKB, and this looks like it's going to be the kind of one big push right now from Complexity. They've got all their item timings. They still have the Aegis up. Should fade in short order, but at the same time, I still think that with these 2 BKBs, this is the best possible timing for them. As Z starts to drop a little bit low, he looks like he's just kind of swinging inside and out. Now he's meeting on that tower. Actually, the swap comes in right now. Pylai is going to get dropped immediately. Bulba misses the stun. The Ravage that you were looking for isn't there, and this should mean a free Rax. The Glyph is popped by Malz, but without the Shadow Demon, I mean, you need all 5 heroes, I feel like, to take this fight. As Swindle blinks in quite aggressively. The Rod of Atos is there as well. Bulba blinks in the middle of all of them, but the BKB flies from Z's, and this should just mean one of those, let's get the Rax, kind of get out. But you just lost 2 sets, a pair of Rax and your Shadow Demon at the same time.
But look at that goal. Black now is in range of potentially picking up that Reaver to get that HP pool that he needs.
Oh, and Fly's going to get gone on. He's the target here. He does use the Glimmer Cape, but is it enough to be able to survive? And Black, does he choose the right side? And he should be able to get the kill on this. And actually, Quickfa comes in with the Lightning, adds another Bloodstone charge to his collection, but they needed anything they could take at that point.
I actually do not agree with that kill. I do not agree with that kill just because I feel like you cannot use the Spectre ulti. If they attempt to push right now, you essentially don't face a Spectre ulti for another. I mean, he's down for 30 seconds, so if you push straight away, right, you're gonna have essentially like 20-ish seconds to potentially stop a push. I just think it's maybe a bit dangerous, right, to use an ultimate like that.
Yeah, I think that the times kind of don't overlap the best, and I feel like if you're Malz at this point, if you lose 2 sets of Rax, that could just spell death for you.
Yeah.
It's really hard to come back from that type of position, especially with the type of heroes that you have. The Undying right now, that's a 4-position Undying that doesn't really have a lot of farm. The Shadow Demon as well, you've seen him die in consecutive fights. He gets swapped in every single time. He used the buyback that one time as well. And now you've kind of got 2 heroes that don't really add a whole lot. And as the game starts to go on, their levels seem to matter less and less.
I guess that was my original concern with the Undying pick as a support, right? Is to me it's a hero that needs farm. It kind of needs the offlane role to essentially get some items. And right now in these 5-on-5s, he drops his totem, and once he drops that, Joe just kills it in 3 hits.
Yeah, the Solar Crest comes on the Vengeful Spirit as well, and I mean, they're just getting so much farm on all their supports, honey, and more importantly than that, I feel Swindle just picked up a really big item. He has his Aghanim Scepter already, and so these fights are going to go even more terribly for Mouse.
Do you think that the Aghanims is the right item choice for the Queen of Pain?
I think that he just wanted to be as tanky as possible, right? It's one of those, like, let's just end the game right now, what else could I buy? I feel like a Hex would have been better.
I mean, Hex against Nyx is so-so,
Yeah.
right? But, for example, I think Skadi is not too bad of an item choice, especially when you have Draw. You can just go aggressive, right? You jump in, you have a BKB, and you just hit anyone. Like, you don't care too much. But I guess Aghanim's not too bad. It looks like they want to wrap around and try to find a pickoff here.
Yeah, and
it would work if the lane would actually push. I just think... Oh, they see the Nyx Assassin.
Yeah, it looks like they want to just get into any fight they can.
Like
a double smoke right now as the Dazzle hits all of them, and a 3-man stun from Bulba. The Spectral lands as well. The Tombstone is dropped too, and the fight just looks a little bit too awkward as Quakeba starts to drop a little bit low. The Supernova's there. Nobody can really fight into that as Pylai Dai does manage to disrupt himself, and this fight just looks so chaotic. One more hit might be able to do that as in the backline, Fly's going to go down, but at the same time, Pylai Dai goes down as well. And Bulba looks like he's trying to position himself from behind. The BKBs were used already, and it doesn't look like anything else is going to happen. And the gold lead, obviously, is still pretty heavily in the favor of Complexity, but you see a little bit of a swing there.
I mean, to me, the fight went even. I guess you can say it's sort of a win for Mouse just because it gives Spectre more room to farm, right?
Yeah.
So you can, if the longer you can extend the game, Draw is not a hero that is super great late game. And with a pickup, with the item pickup on Queen of Pain, with the Aghanims of Queen of Pain, you go for that late game route. Or I was a bit skeptical because I feel like he could choose to go a bit more physical heavy and not go for that all-in kind of style where you have to finish that game.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I still think the Ags upgrade for Queen of Pain is one of the better ones, right? The cooldown reduction on top of the damage increase is pretty substantial, especially if you get something like a refresher later on. Then it really starts to pay dividends, and Quakeba picks up an ulti orb. I think that the item should be a BKB for him, but who am I to say?
It could be the BKB. The other thing that you can think about is just you feel like you need to... You know, any fight can change when you have a Hex.
Yeah.
And getting that disabled essentially is what they need. They need to potentially stop... If they can instant kill the Phoenix, right? It could mean so much in these kind of fights.
Because right now... he's waiting for the last second to use that Supernova every time.
Yeah. Because he's not afraid, right? Like... They don't have... As soon as you see the Nyx Assassin initiating, and then you know that Leshrac follows up with a stun, there's nothing that stops him from getting that Supernova off.
Exactly, and Moon Meander is actually quite farm. Picks up the Shivas as well, but more importantly for Mouse is Black does have that Manta style available to him, and I don't know, they were able to hold off that fight. I feel, if anything, it was an advantage for Mouse just because they're creating more time for that Spectre. Because you're just looking for that one big fight where you win, and then all of a sudden it becomes impossible to high ground against the Haunt.
They just scouted out the Roshan, so I believe it's going to be that attempt tonight. There's going to be cheese on top of that. Wait, what's the Roshan? The Roshan is up now. I saw it coming.
Yeah, it just spawns right now, and if you're Complexity, do you feel the move is go for the Roshan, take the Aegis, get the cheese as well, go for high ground?
Yeah, I do think so. I don't think they should wait any longer. You know you face a Spectre now with a Manta, so he chose to go the route where he doesn't need to straight away fight, right? Where he rather extends his gold lead. Like you want to build up more and more gold, and essentially he can go for the Skadi route, or he can go for the Heart route. I believe the Heart route is maybe the safer choice. Or what would you follow up here on the Spectre?
I think Heart is pretty big, and actually Black's going to be the target right now, and if he were to die right now, this would be so huge, as this would mean the buyback, so you're not going to see something like a buyback Haunt if you were to approach the fight like that, and that's so huge, right? Just being able to pick off Black before the fight even happens, and at top they're looking for the split push, but it doesn't seem like Complexity care too much, as they're just marching down this middle lane right now with...
It was very unfortunate there. Black actually had like 3 seconds cooldown on the Manta. He could have most likely gotten out there. If he manted and then used the Spectre Dagger, he probably wouldn't have gotten swapped there.
Yeah, and see, he's just beating away at the tower as it's dipping quite low. The lightning is going to come from the Leshrac, just trying to keep them at bay, but I don't know if this is enough damage to survive in terms of your tower, and the buyback Haunt is in And Z's actually doesn't have an Aegis or anything to speak of. The Sonic Wave lands on everybody. The Supernovas pops as well. They don't have anything right-clicking it right now. Swindle Melons in that backline pops his BKB. They kill the Tombstone. Your Drow Ranger is dead, though. You do manage to take the tower, but I think you just kind of disengage. And I feel like Complexity, they had to avoid, they had to wait for some sort of opportunity a little bit better, because the Drow without the Aegis goes down so quickly.
It was actually very close there, though. The Drow, you know, essentially he lost like it was like 150 HP more that he needed to survive there. So it was very close that the fight could have actually been kind of like a, you know, like you just heat him up and then you just go back in. So it was very close. I think the attempt of taking high ground wasn't bad. Essentially they got the tier 3 tower, right? And maybe the play would have been safer to just go for the Roche, right? And you get an Aegis with a cheese, but you at least got a tier 3 tower. And in the end, you didn't go terribly wrong out of that fight.
Yeah, what a surprise this would be if Complexity were able to take the second game off Mouse. I feel like that would do so much for their confidence. Being 3-1 already, I feel like in their minds they'd say, okay, we're pretty safe. Like, we're doing a really good job right now. If we just keep at this pace, we'll be fine. And
also, both teams, you could argue, faced the stronger teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have Mousesports with Complexity as well as EHAC, right? And Complexity against Mousesports now with Root Gaming before that. So you would argue both teams kind of face the stronger teams. And then, yes, like you were mentioning, a 3-1 would be pretty good for both teams. Obviously, from the side of Mouse here, I would say, given the early game, that actually went quite okay for them, right? You would think this game was more, to me, it was more of a throw, and it should have gone the way of Mouse. As well as, I think, in the mindset of Mouse, you would not expect anything else but the first position. Yeah,
for sure. And they're just going to split push that top tower and get out, and that is going to mean the Hex, but at the same time, that's a Refresher Orb completed on that Queen of Pain. Now that Academ's pickup is definitely well worth it, as she's going to pick that up in short order, and she's got the cheese as well. And that value point cloak, I kind of am okay with now. I felt like there were a few positions where that actually saved him pre-BKB.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, back in Hon, the cloak was always picked up. Like literally you had 5 heroes going for cloak, just because it was 400 gold instead of in Dota it's 500, right? 550, right?
550, yeah.
Where it seems so little difference in terms of gold, but it's actually quite big. But I think 20% magic resistance that you get from 505 gold is a lot of value.
Oh, and at top, they're actually going to combination onto Z's, but he just pops the BKB, and this should mean like a 3-shot on a Pylite die. He does disrupt himself. This shouldn't mean too much, though, as he's actually killed. And do you feel like that was worth it? Trade a BKB charge for the Shadow Demon's life?
Not at all, and the scary part is they used the Spectra ulti for that, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. So now the positioning advantage that Black had in these fights, I don't even know if that was worth it if they took down the Aegis at that point.
I do not agree at all. And it did not even benefit them, right? Now they didn't get that kill. They used the Spectre Horn, and how do you defend high ground now? So Black has to literally walk into them.
Yeah.
And the scary part right now as well is that, you know, how they attempt these defenses is always with Shadow Poison, right? And what Cold is doing is they usually aim for that swap onto the Shadow Demon so they win these fights.
Yeah, you're seeing it every single time as Z's just beating away on that melee Rex as it's actually getting quite low. The Phoenix flies into the middle of everything, and Bulba goes in with the stun. Swindle Melons pops the BKB quite early, and it looks like he wants to go for that double ultimate. Quakefa's dropping quite low, and in this backline, there's just a lot of zombies hitting on top of them, but Swindle comes in with that second ultimate, able to get a double kill already, zoning out way too with that Shadow Dagger, and this probably is going to mean 2 racks at the minimum if they just go for this last one as well. I mean, without Quakefa there and without the Haunt, I don't know how much they can be able to do, and they're actually going to go on top of Z's, but he gets graved up as well. Quakefa, he actually just gets pushed out, unable to get the stun off, and the racks are dropping quite low. It looks like the supports are just going for objective gaming right now. Swindle's just trying to desperately end the game. He realizes if they get Mega Creeps, that should mean enough. Or they could just kill them in 2 seconds, as Black does get a double kill, but he does die, and he doesn't have buyback, and Z's is still alive, full HP, full everything, 1 set of racks to fall, and that'll mean Mega Creeps. I don't think that Mouse can come back from this sort of deficit, as a lot of buybacks are already used. This is going to be Mega Creeps as well. You don't really have too many towers, too big of a gold swing as well. And Z's is actually just hitting up the throne towers as 5 heroes are alive, and GG is called by Mouse. Complexity complete the upset with a 1-1.
I think essentially this game came down to the early two fights that they had as a 5-on-5 skirmish, where Moon he seemed to have the right positioning, and I felt like the team fought really well around that supernova, which resulted into, I think, 2 clean wipes. Like it was like 4-0, 4-1.
Yeah, it felt like Mouse just didn't have the best way to deal with that egg. They had a Nyx, an Undying, a Shadow Demon, a Spectre. Like those aren't